Is your website your greatest sales asset or your biggest sales blind spot? Might you be like one of the 86% of financial brands who have never secret shopped their website? And as a result, could you be losing loans and deposits? In this episode of the Banking on Digital Growth podcast, we'll share three common website secret shopping objections that limit the future growth of financial brands.
You're listening to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast.
Welcome back to the Banking on Digital Growth podcast. I'm Audrey Kanata, operations lead here at the Digital Growth Institute. And today we are going to share with you the three most common objections that we hear when it comes to secret shopping your financial brand's website. But first, want to see how your financial brand's marketing and sales compares to others? You can schedule your marketing and sales benchmark review when you visit www.digitalgrowth.com/benchmark. Now, joining me for today's conversation is founder and CEO of the Digital Growth Institute, James Robert Lay.
Hey, Audrey, it's good to share time with you today.
You as well, James Robert. What's been going well for you recently?
What has been going well? I would say getting a new website launched and having some conversations around that. I know that we have recently scheduled 3 new website secret shopping studies. We've got a couple more in progress right now, and I know that's the topic of today's conversation, which is it's been really good to take what we are seeing and hearing on the client side and then being able to take some of those discussions and even objections as we're talking about today and then flip them back out to help those who are watching and listening, because I keep hearing this website secret shopping. This is a new concept for many. I mean, I was on the CU 2.0 podcast. I was getting interviewed the other day by Robert McGarvey, and he was doing some prep work for his conversation with me, and he goes, "Tell me more about this." And I go, "Well, it's something that we've been doing for, I think all the way back to 2012. One of the very first websites that we secret shopped, and really digital experiences for that matter, it was the neobank. It was Simple, and it was Movin', which was founded by Brett King. Simple was obviously acquired by BBVA. I think it was like in 2015, 2016 for like 128 million. And then BBVA brought all of that IP into their own business models, and then they shut the brand down. But we've been studying human behavior online through the context of financial services for 21 years, with secret shopping being well over half that time.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you shared our win recently with the new website. That has been such a massive win for me personally. I am so happy it's there. So happy to have a place now that really shares and articulates our program, and specifically now the website secret shopping, because like you said, this is something that many haven't heard of, not sure what it is. And so if you are not sure, we have a beautiful new site that will give you much more information, more than what we've talked about here, or some of which we've talked about here on the podcast. And today we're going to get into we've identified 3 common objections that we've heard when it comes to secret shopping your website. And I think it all really just comes down to having clarity and having an understanding into what exactly these studies are. I think because there may be a little bit of confusion and uncertainty, that's where we get these objections. And so I think really the goal of our conversation today is to provide a little bit more clarity so that, when the time comes, if one of these 3 situations you find yourself in, you'll now have a little bit more context into what it is that we do.
It's a great point with the objections, and it's interesting because one of the initiatives, and I might not have even told you about this, so surprise.
Oh boy.
I am very interested, and we will be sending out some communication around getting financial brands and marketing and sales leaders specifically to secret shop the digital growth website.
I
So
love it.
we're going to flip the perspective because just as much as we have learned from secret shopping and facilitating 1,300 plus website secret shopping studies for financial brands, there's a lot that we could learn if we flip the conversation. So we'll be sharing more. And then what we'll do, just like in all of these recent conversations around website secret shopping, we're going to take those insights and then turn them into a conversation of what we learned by getting some external outside perspective. And to this date, based upon some recent studies that we've been facilitating within financial services, we know that 86% of financial brands have never facilitated a website secret shopping study. And as a result, there are blind spots that are costing financial brands millions in loans and deposits. Those blind spots are primarily around marketing and sales strategy, positioning, and communication. And when we gain this perspective, there are often quick wins that an organization can apply and begin to bridge those gaps, remove those blind spots that then result in increased conversions for loans and deposits. That 86%, though, if we go back to when we did some industry studies, 2019, 2020, as I was writing Banking on Digital Growth, around that time, 92% of financial brands had never facilitated any website secret shopping studies. So within the last 5 years or so, that number has been very slow to move, slow to change. And a lot of this is because there's obviously a lack of awareness into what the opportunities are. But more so, there's a lack of awareness in what financial brands are losing because of blind spots that they can't see because they've never facilitated a website secret shopping study to begin with in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I love the idea of inviting others to secret shop our site, because we certainly are not immune to having blind spots. And I'm sure there will be a few, like, the shoe will be on the other, or the tables will have turned a little bit, where there might be some areas where I'm like hitting myself on the head, like, oh my gosh, cannot believe I did not see that. But like we shared in our conversation a couple weeks ago
Well,
with that VP of marketing, we want to get our butts kicked.
we
Come,
do.
tell us.
We do. And
Tell
you know
us.
what? If you are watching or listening to this podcast, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this out here. We never pre-script or plan this of where we're going to go. A lot of this is just happening in real time. Send me a text, 832-549-5792 or Audrey 415-579-3002. Send either one of us a text or both of us, and we'll always reply that you would like to secret shop the Digital Growth website, www.digitalgrowth.com, and to thank you for your time. It'll take you about 30 minutes. Audrey would get something set up with you and help facilitate that study just like we would with for a financial brand, but she'll get that set up. And then as a thank you, I will then facilitate a 30-minute, for the podcast listeners, I'll do an hour strategy session for you, for your team, which is $1,000 value. So you secret shop our site, takes you 30 minutes of time.
Hey.
I'll give you an hour of my time, which is $1,000 value, to help give you some strategy, some perspective, to help you gain some clarity into where you might be losing loans and deposits that you're not even aware of today.
That's awesome. James Roberts feeling very generous today.
I am feeling generous.
You know what it was? It was your cold plunge this morning.
It was the cold plunge. It's getting back into routines, getting back into habits after some challenging times over the past week or so. And that's an important point when it comes to routines and habits. For organizations, for financial brands that we have facilitated website secret shopping studies with over the years, some of them we've been working with for 6, 7, 8 years.
Oh, yeah.
There is a routine, there is a habit, there is a cadence, there's predictability into the process, into the methodology, because they're continuously gaining perspective. They're gaining clarity into where blind spots are every 90 days.
Yeah, I mean, I would venture to say, and at least in my time in the last 4 years, I can't think of maybe a handful that have only, stopped with one study,
Mm.
just one and done. Um, most of the clients that we've worked with have made it at least, biannual, if not quarterly.
Well, I guess that's a great way to segue into the heart of today's
Yeah.
conversation. Is you have picked up on them, I've picked up on them.
Yep.
There are some impediments to getting started. And I think back to your point, once an organization gets started, then it becomes apparent that we should continue doing this because the website secret shopping studies, then the value gained continues to pay for the next study and the next study and the next study. So it's this self-perpetuating investment that, you know what, we're going to invest less than $5,000 into a website secret shopping study. We're going to get a website optimization game plan for one of our product lines. It takes less than 30 days. And we know that we're going to get a 5x, 10x, if not in some cases, we've seen a 100x multiple of identifying lost opportunity that marketing and sales teams at financial brands aren't even aware of. So
Yep.
let's
Get
talk
into it.
through common objections that prevent teams, marketing and sales teams at banks and credit unions from getting started in the first place.
Yeah, so I think the biggest one, we'll start here, and this is one that we actually ran into late last week. We got a response back from a financial brand, and they said, and just going to quote it, at this time, we've decided to hold off on secret shopping since our plan is to do a complete website redesign. If that changes, we'll reach out to set something up. So, objection number one is we're getting ready to build a new website. We don't need to do any website secret shopping studies.
Yeah, this was actually a bit surprising when talking with this financial brand and their marketing leader, because we did run them through a benchmark conversation. They left that conversation feeling very confident that they had gained some clarity into where there were potential opportunities. One of them was even self-actualized that, you know what, a website secret shopping study would be very, very helpful to, and I think the exact response to the benchmark that they completed was gaining clarity into how real people are actually using our website. And not everyone I talk to is a good fit. And there are certain points in a conversation to where I'm like, you know what? I don't think the time is right now. But this one, it felt like the time was right. And when we followed up to help them take that next step, the response, as you said, was we've decided to hold off. Our plans to do a complete website redesign. And it took me by surprise, because there's no better time to secret shop your website than when you're thinking about building a new website to begin with in the first place.
Right. This one left me a little puzzled myself. But I get it though. I've talked to, and we've worked with, and even just recently, we've worked with several financial brands who they are in the middle of, or they're about to do a website redesign. And there's so many different ways that we can, work with these studies, so that you can, create the most value for this new website going forward. But, whether we've done some where we've tested the current site, what's working, what's not. So what can we apply to the new site moving forward? We've tested sites that are in beta. Are we moving in the right direction? Is this working? What do we need to tweak? We've even done studies. We just did one about a month ago on a site that just launched, for the same reason. What's working? What's not? And so this was, interesting, especially if the new website is your goal for the time being, for many, it's the annual goal. Because can be such a big undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be on your mind. It's interesting to me that you wouldn't want to invest in this, or maybe it could be they already feel like they're investing enough. possibly bringing in an agency to help. Um,
Well, and I think that's a great point. Whoever builds the next site, the next iteration, whether that's through internal resources or through an external agency, the findings and recommendations that we shared can be applied by anyone. I even think about a study that we did have a conversation about recently on the podcast. This particular financial brand invited their agency to the findings and recommendations meeting. And the agency was extremely grateful because they were like, oh, wow, we didn't even see some of these blind spots. And so we are a big believer in collaboration where a rising tide raises all ships. And I think, and I remember what I replied to this particular leader, and it was just a question. What changes if nothing changes? What changes if nothing changes? Because the predictable pattern will be this. They're going to go through an RFP process. They're going to talk to all of their internal key stakeholders about what the internal key stakeholders want to see on the new website.
Yep.
Very high probability that they will never, ever, talk to account holders, which in reality, when it comes to building a website that sells, I would put them secondary to the B, which is they will probably never, ever talk to prospective account holders that are in their ideal buying persona. And because they're never going to do this, that is what creates the greatest blind spot right there. And then maybe there's a C to all of this, is they're not going to objectively, that's the key word, objectively benchmark their buying experience against third-party competitors, other financial brands, whether that be at a national level, a local level, or a fintech digital neobank level. And when you think about all three of those points, blind spots will definitely be a hindrance for them going forward that will cost them loans and deposits.
Yeah, and I think that's where my questions are. Like, okay, you're getting ready to build a new site. Like you said, you're going to have a big sit down meeting with your key stakeholders, probably bring an agency in. Everyone's going to give their input on what they think should be on the new website. But where is this all coming from? We talk a lot about just having these beautiful, wonderful websites. It's like an art project, and that's what everyone's kind of approaching it as. We want to win an award, and many, in some cases you have. So it's almost like you want the latest and the greatest and the newest, but for what purpose? Is the purpose to be beautiful, grab attention, look nice? Okay, well then continue on with the way you're going about this. Is the purpose to drive leads, increase conversions? Well, it's going to take a lot more than a beautiful website.
Pause on that, Audrey. I want to hop in because once again, this is about perception, which is the sum of context and framing, because someone might be watching or listening and think, oh, of course we want our new site to drive more conversions. In their mind, conversions are for loan applications or deposit applications. But within the banking on digital growth methodology, we're looking at additional conversion points throughout the buying journey, throughout different stages. I think about a conversation with a SVP of marketing who has recently attended one of our roundtable discussions. She's going through this very process right now, and she attended the roundtable to gain some perspective into what questions that she should be asking. And I asked her, well, what is the perspective of the website today? What is the role, the job of the website? And the perspective and the belief of the website from other key stakeholders within the organization, i.e. outside of marketing, whether that be on the leadership team or within specific business lines, is that the website is just an informational resource. It's a place where people can go to get information about their products and services. And this particular organization is around 3 billion in assets. The belief that others have within the organization as it stands today is that this is not a sales asset. This is not a sales engine. This is just a, for lack of a better word, it is a glorified online brochure. And we know how much belief is going to drive behavior when it comes to the next iteration of this particular organization.
And I guess that's the point of awareness that we were talking about earlier. And is there a lack of awareness at how valuable of an asset your website can be? I mean, we've worked with organizations where, and I think you probably have the specific stat on this, where after going through our program, their website became or outperformed all of their physical branches. Was it in leads? What was it?
Well, there's actually a couple. There was a $6 billion family-owned bank that, when they applied the methodologies that they gained through the website secret shopping studies, and I think for this particular organization, we facilitated 3 or 4 in conjunction with a digital growth blueprint and their leadership going through the Digital Growth University. Their digital sales center outpaced over 80 branches within 90 days. There was a $1 billion credit union that we had worked with out on the East Coast that transformed their website from a glorified online brochure into a website that sells, and they saw an increase in digital sales by 280%. There was a $1.4 billion credit union that applied the thinking through their website secret shopping studies. In this particular organization, almost every single organization that we've worked with, we secret shopped before and after. And in some cases, it was even during, because they wanted to get some feedback as they were going through the design and the development of the user experience, that there were going to be no blind spots when they went live. And in this one particular credit union, they reclaimed 9,200 abandoned applications in 90 days after launching their new website that sells. And if you consider the fact that those abandoned applications, let's just make math very easy, have an average lifetime value of $1,000, they reclaimed $9.2 million in abandoned application engagement within 90 days.
And in so many cases, it's you don't know what you don't know. It's a shift in perspective. If the website historically has been viewed as just a place to get information, which it was for many, many years. That was kind of the primary. We didn't have a lot of the technology that we do now. But so if that perspective hasn't shifted, then you'll keep doing things the way they've always been done. And I think that's the whole point of having these conversations, is to bring awareness to the possibilities. And that this brings us to the second objection, which we've kind of already touched on a little bit, which is we've just launched a new website. We just poured in a ton of money. We've been working our butts off. We have this brand new website. We love it. Our members love it. Or account holders love it. Maybe we just won an award. We're feeling great about ourselves. We're celebrating. And I get it. We just launched a website and I'm feeling phenomenal right now. But I know
there are
that
blind spots.
They're very well. Do what?
There are blind spots. And that's one of the reasons that we're going to apply our own methodology, and why I ask what I asked to open up this conversation, because there's no better way to learn than by getting objective external perspective. It's almost like, imagine that you're stuck inside the bottle. You can't read the label. You can't see what's on the label. And even Audrey, if you think about why we built and launched our new website, it was because we had a tremendous amount of confusion, misunderstanding into what we do, why we do it, how we do it. And that's a conversation for another. We should probably unpack that right there in another conversation.
And and that's the thing, we can laugh about it now because we have awareness, and we're not taking it personally.
Yeah.
We are doing the best that we can, and when we notice something, we certainly, do our best to stay on top of things and make changes. Um, and that's what we did with the website, and we recognize that, oh my gosh, there's this gap here.
It's the
We
four
know what we
A's.
do.
It's the four
Many
A's.
others don't.
Yeah, it's
Do what?
the four A's of transformation. It's awareness, which you've talked about.
Mhm.
But then there's a second step, which is acceptance. That's sometimes very hard
Yeah.
to, we see that. We can give some awareness, but to accept the perspective. And here's the thing, when it comes to website secret shopping studies, it's not our perspective. We're nothing more than the facilitator of ideal account holders for a particular financial brand. We're just
right.
taking their perspective and then sharing, here are the patterns. Here's where they're feeling confused. Here's where others have an advantage compared to how you're communicating right now, whether that be marketing or sales. So there's awareness, there's acceptance. The third one is action, and then there's the accountability piece to actually go and do this. And I think you talked about not taking it personally. And as we're talking about, an objection is, oh, well, we don't need website secret shopping studies because, well, we just launched our new website, or we just won an award for it. It reminds me of Mia Perez, who we worked with and her team for about 7 or 8 years at Louisiana Federal Credit Union. And we have a podcast conversation with Mia talking about this, which was why I can speak about this publicly and speak about it openly. But when Mia and her team started working with us, they went to a workshop. They attended a workshop that we had facilitated and hosted. They're like, I wonder how we rank. I wonder how we compare. So I was like, listen, let's do some website secret shopping just to get a baseline.
Yeah.
And I remember when we delivered their findings, the energy in the room was like, it was just sucked out. It's like I delivered bad news. I was like the doctor coming in. I'm saying, I'm so sorry. You've got a lot of problems. But I was like, here's the good news. Now you know. And in reflection, Mia said, that was more painful than a full body wax.
Yeah.
And
here's the thing.
The reason being is because their website had literally just won all of these awards at an industry event. I don't care about awards. The market awards you by loans and deposits.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And I get it. But here's kind of the way I look at it. The blind spots are there whether or not you secret shop your website. You either have blind spots or you don't. It doesn't matter. They're not going to go anywhere. So us secret shopping your website and surfacing these blind spots, it doesn't change anything because they're there and they're going to continue to stay there. So if you flip it around, now you have the awareness. Like you said, now you know. And guess what? It can stop today. It can make a change tomorrow. So viewing it, and that has a lot to do with just how you perceive things. In life, in general. You can look at it as a negative, ouch, that hurt, or you can look at it as, actually, this is a growth opportunity. We're about to level up and be even better. Who doesn't want to do that? Who doesn't want to level up? Show me what I'm doing. Show me what I'm missing out on. Why not?
Show me where I can be even better. And
even
that
better.
was the mindset. That was the growth mindset that Mia had with herself. That was the growth mindset that Mia had with her team. Her team was fantastic because even though it was painful, they realized that there were things that they didn't see that were costing them loans and deposits. Most importantly, they had the awareness, they accepted it, they took action. And they continued to take action. And I think that's the crux of why secret shopping your website after you launch a new website is important because there are always ways to optimize different stages within a buying journey for each one of your product lines. And through our methodology, we're looking at 5 different stages of a buying journey. And if you think about it, you have 3 product lines or 4 product lines that you're wanting to optimize over the course of a year. Let's just focus on 1 or 2 of those stages within each study so that we can really provide the deepest amount of clarity
Right.
for continuous improvement.
Yeah, and these studies aren't meant to completely, tear down and rebuild what you already have.
Correct.
Couldn't be further from that. So your brand new website isn't going anywhere. We're going to look for tweaks in the journey. It's not going to, we're not looking at necessarily design and branding. I mean, yes, we do look at communication and positioning and your messaging, of course, but structurally, it should not change much at all. We're looking for little micro changes to make. So I think that might be a misconception too, is, well, we don't want to start all over again. We've already done all this work. We're tired. We're done.
Oh, and I get it. We did a podcast about the emotional journey a CMO takes when it comes to building a new website. And by the end, you are tired, you are burned out. But if you look at this as a way to be even better, to identify 3 or 4 actions that you can take every quarter, and sometimes, a 1%, a 2%, a 3% increase in conversion can truly have a 10x result on a website secret shopping study from a payback period for that matter.
We've seen it.
We have seen it. And just simply being curious is a key mindset here, specifically when after launching a new site of and maybe
and open.
And I guess maybe if you're watching or listening to the question to ask yourself is like, A, where are blind spots within our digital buying journeys that we're not aware of that might be costing us loans and deposits?
Mm-hmm.
Do we even know what the volume of that is? Do we know what the dollar amount of that is? And then number 2, what are the few things that we could do to bridge those gaps, to close those blind spots? And don't think it has to be a massive overhaul.
Yeah. And I love this. You say it all the time, but you're making it even better. You're taking your great site, your wonderful site, and you're just making it even better.
Yeah.
That's the perspective to look at. And so as we start to wrap up, let's discuss and unpack the 3rd and final objection, which I don't know if we hear it the most, but I do think when we ask people and we ask financial brain leaders if they've ever secret shopped their website, a majority of the people who say yes, they say it because of this. And that is that they secret shop their website internally. Yes, we secret shop our website. We do it ourselves. We're going to do this internally. And we had someone recently, a couple weeks ago, who we've actually done a secret shopping study for. They came back and said, you know what, actually, we're going to do this internally now.
That actually came up with a prospect conversation too. They were interested in facilitating some website secret shopping studies. They were having some struggles getting buy-in from others in the organization, and the resolution was, well, we're just going to do this ourselves. And I started asking more questions. I said, well, what specifically are you looking to secret shop?
Yep.
And they said, well, we're looking to secret shop our loan and deposit applications, which once again, I think you and I are going to do another conversation about what can be secret shopped. And do we want to secret shop it all at one time, or do we want to focus our secret shopping studies? So that's a conversation for another day. But for this particular institution, this particular individual, it was secret shopping loan and deposit applications. my follow-up question, why? Why is that important and why now? And they said, well, we're concerned that these applications are costing us loans. They're costing, great, you have awareness. Do you know how much? They didn't know. I said, well, let's just look at it this way. What's your abandonment rate? They said it was around 60 to 70% on the loan side of things, because I just isolated the conversation into one point.
Yep.
And they said, okay. I said 67%. Is that bad? They didn't know. So there's no context to measure anything against. Then they said that they were going to facilitate these studies internally. So I got on another phone call. I said, do you think people are going to tell the truth? Do you think that your employees are going to tell you what you need to hear to make an objective decision about the future of your organization when it comes to maximizing your loan and deposit growth, specifically the deposit and loan applications? And the leader, they're an SVP of marketing. They pondered that question. It was silent for a little bit. And they said, no, we have a hard time getting our team members to tell us the truth as it stands today. And I said, well, why? Because they're scared. What do you mean they're scared? What are they scared of? They're scared to offend someone. So if you're already having trouble with someone internally telling you the truth because they're scared to offend someone, or they're scared that they're going to get in trouble, or they're scared they're going to rock the boat, do you really think that they're going to tell you the truth about where there are gaps in your loan or deposit applications? That was number one. And then the second thing that I asked, I said, okay, let's assume that you do this internally. How many of your employees have ever opened up an account or applied for a loan at another organization, specifically a digital or a neo fintech, digital bank, neobank? Because we know that around 85% of those working in financial services, particularly at a higher senior level, have never opened an account or applied for a loan in a digital neobank fintech. And that's important because there's no context, once again, into what the possibilities are for an optimized online account opening or deposit account opening experience.
I have so many thoughts in my head right now about this one. I think first of all, there might be a little bit sometimes misunderstanding that, secret shopping internally, it's more than checking for proper links, broken links, error pages. Is everything working as it's supposed to? We do surface a lot of those issues in our secret shopping studies, just as a result, not on purpose necessarily. So that's not what we're looking at all. We're looking at the experience, the communication, the messaging, the complexity, the simplicity of it. And having someone internally do this for you and test this for you is not accurate. I mean, for many reasons. You've got bias 100%, not only to your website, but to the industry. And we've seen this. We have tested people who they don't know what a HELOC is. They don't know what APR stands for. And so does the messaging as an employee, does the messaging make sense to you when you're testing it? Sure. Because you're in the industry, you get it. And so you're going to assume that looks good. That makes sense to me. And as far as just the website and the placement and where everything is, you have experience. You know where things have been. You are there. Like it's like your home. I know everything is in my home. When a stranger comes in, do they know where to find things? Absolutely not. And so it just doesn't make sense for so many reasons to have internal employees do this. Like you said, fear of telling the truth. But then there's also, opinions that people have because for whatever reason, they want to help, they want to, make themselves look better, but there's no real reasoning or data to back up those opinions. And so I think you're just getting yourself into a jumbled mess if you try to do this internally. Honestly, just putting it bluntly.
Well, and that's the whole reason as I open up this conversation, we're looking for feedback from financial brand leaders
Yes,
to tell us where
exactly.
our blind spots are.
Kick our
We
butts.
just don't know what we don't know. And the same is true when it comes to financial brand websites. They're built with the best of intentions. We do know that.
100%. Yes.
But a lot of those intentions are being driven from an internal perspective, an internal belief, an internal bias. And if I think back, we bring this conversation full circle to how we started. Well, we don't need a website. We don't need website secret shopping because we're just going to build a whole new website to begin with. And we know the predictable path that most likely an organization is going to take there. And as I mentioned before, they're going to go in, they're going to have all of these internal conversations, talking to all these internal key stakeholders who all have internal beliefs and all have internal biases. But I don't care what they think. I don't care what they think. I don't care what the internal belief is. I don't care what the internal bias is because that doesn't matter. Your website and what's on your website is not about you. It's not about
And
what
what you
you
like and
want.
what you think.
It's about what they, account holders, even more so, prospective account holders, it's about what they need. It's all about them. And when we get that external objective perspective and we just listen and we ask good
Yeah.
questions, they're going to be more than happy to tell us. And that's how we eliminate blind spots, by just asking really, really good questions.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking 100, 200 minutes that we look at worth of video, worth of insights and patterns for, in many cases, massive, massive results from just a few small tweaks.
Yeah.
So let's start to wrap up here, James Robert. We just kind of in summary, we went through the three biggest objections we've seen to website secret shopping studies. We're about to build a new website. We just built a new website and we're going to secret shop internally. And I think it all boils down to just awareness.
Mm.
Just having awareness, what your website is for, the purpose, and also an understanding of what these secret shoppings can do and the value that they can bring.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, to give everyone an actionable step as we wrap up, one small thing that they can do today: go to another financial brand's website. Where do they have blind spots based upon what you know? Not your site, but another financial brand. Where do you feel confused? Well, see, you have bias. You already have knowledge about the product offering that others don't have. But it's a good exercise. And how does that shopping experience compare to your experience? Where are there gaps? You may or may not know. You may or may not see them because of your own internal bias, but it's a great exercise to begin to apply some of what we've been thinking about, what we've been talking about here today.
Yep. And it may not even be blind spots, there might be areas that, give you inspiration, ideas.
Great. Good point of what you could do
Even better.
even better.
Finished your sentence there.
Very well stated. Yes, you did.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Banking on Digital Growth podcast.